So we're going to talk about some of the things about overcoming overwhelm today. So I wanted to put together this little workshop. Hey, Stacy, this little workshop about overcoming overwhelm. Naturally, when we get started, we're going full on, we're going in like head first, and we're taking this business of ours by storm. We get overwhelmed. And it's natural. It happens, I think, to pretty much everybody who is starting a business. It doesn't matter if it's an MLM business. It doesn't matter if it's an independent business. It doesn't matter if it's a brick and mortar business and you're the CEO of that. Even if you've purchased a franchise and you've got lots of help from, the franchisee, right? Or franchisor, I guess is the way you'd say it, because you'd be the franchisee. So excuse me if I sneeze. I've had this sneeze haunting me all morning. We've got a little bit of dust blowing today. So there's a few things that I do that personally help me, and I'm going to share those with you guys. So if you guys have anything that comes up, again, please feel free to post it in the comments, ask questions. This is a no judgment zone, totally a safe place. And I'll see if one of the little tips that I have in my toolbox are going to be helpful for you. I also took a little bit of notes. I always say I feel like such a grown-up when I take notes. So I put a bunch of stuff in my Voxer. So if I click onto the phone, it's because I'm just making sure I don't skip over anything that I feel like is super important. So one of the things that I like to do, and I don't feel like I do it enough necessarily, I'm trying to work on it, is when I wake up, before I even get out of bed, I like to think of things that I'm grateful for. Just do a little bit of gratitude. Some people like to write these things in their journals. I usually keep my journal here in the office, which is, halfway across the house, which isn't a far distance, but when you're thinking about just getting out of bed and whatever, I just like to do some some people do prayer, some people do meditation. I just like to do a little bit of gratitude and really think about the things that that I have to be grateful for. So that's one thing. And then I get up and kind of, do the morning routine, brush my teeth, that kind of stuff. Then the other thing that I've recently started doing, I know I've talked a little bit about setting different kinds of boundaries and doing certain things like that. I've turned off all the notifications on my phone. If I'm expecting something to come in, like via private messenger from one of my clients or from Voxer or whatever, then I'll turn the notifications back on. But definitely like all day on Sundays, because that's my day off for the most part, I turn off all the notifications. They used to haunt me. So like when I would see that somebody had, like if I had emails, like if I had like 30 emails, and for some strange reason I end up getting hundreds of emails every day, and most of them are junk, right? But I only really want to see the ones from like my clients and people reaching out to me, about stuff that's actually important, not selling me some sort of weird lawnmower thing that I have no interest in. So I've turned off the notifications for my email. So that little like number that's sitting on the mailbox icon isn't haunting me. I've done the same thing for Facebook. And I've decided that I was going to set certain times during the day where I'm going to check in on those things. And it's been a huge, huge, huge time saver, because it's not distracting me from whatever it is that I'm working on. Like now I can kind of glance over and I don't really think about it. I don't see like, oh my God, there's 100 messages. Let me show you guys something. When I first hopped on here today, because I've been at the doctor's office with Maddie for his checkup all morning, and they were awesomely slow. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this. And if you do, it might be backwards. I had over 100 notifications since this morning when I left my house at like 9:30. So if you can imagine how distracting that can be throughout the day, as each one of those are coming in, one after the other after the other. And some of them are silly. Some of them have nothing to do with anything. Some of them are important. Some of them are from my, the other board members at the nonprofit that I'm a part of, because we maintain a Facebook community where we communicate about a bunch of stuff. So I've just set certain times and certain boundaries around when I'm going to be on social media and not allow that to distract me. I also have my Instagram notifications turned off. What else do I have turned off? That's pretty much it. And that's really made a huge difference in just the way it feels, because I know if I have like those numbers haunting me, it kind of raises my anxiety levels just a little bit, if I'm being totally honest. And that's not productive. It's not productive at all. So one cool thing is that's something easy that you can do. If for some reason you can't turn those off, you can't seem to separate yourself from those, I recommend getting a regular old-fashioned old school alarm clock. There's a million different kinds out there, so just get the one that you like the best, because if the first thing you see when you wake up is 100 messages, it just sets the tone for your day completely different, right? And it's letting your clients, your prospects, your peers set the tone for your day instead of you setting the tone and the intention for your day. So like, for example, this morning, I woke up, checked in. My husband leaves for work at like 5 in the morning. So, we always text in the morning, have a nice day, love you, be safe type of thing. And then I went and set up the baby monitor and did my workout, which is surprising. Now, don't you guys think that I'm too crazy. I didn't get up extra early to do my workout. I got up at 7:30. I'm not a morning person. I'm trying to be a bit better about being a morning person, but I'm just not. And I don't get a lot of sleep at night, because the kids don't sleep at night. So that just works for me. Obviously, I know most people get up and do their workouts, at 5 in the morning or before their day jobs or whatever. And I think that's excellent. So just because I don't do it doesn't mean that it's not effective. It's just not currently effective for me, even though I wish it was. So a couple of other things here that I really think are important are a to-do list. So I work off lists. So I have 2 lists. I have a to-do list and a must-do list, and they're different. So I have a never-ending to-do list, like most of you guys. It's kind of like almost like a honey-do list, where you have all these things that are always like, oh, I need to do that. 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 But then you have a must-do list, like, okay, for me, and setting deadlines and appointments and like scheduling times to go on live and different stuff. That really, really helps me, because if I kind of have it set into my appointments and into my calendar, then I know it's a must do and I have to get it done, and I have to get it done relatively within that, short time period. Like today I had to bump it a little bit because we got super delayed at the doctor. We sat waiting for an hour before we got seen. I thought a 10 o'clock appointment, getting home by 12:30 would be sufficient. I was wrong. But I found this little notebook, and I can't remember where I found it. I think it was either at Staples, and I'm sure you guys can get it on Amazon. I want to show you guys. Do it now, do it later. So I kind of just, I like how the page is broken in half. So I have must do on the do it now and do it later on like the to do, so like usually laundry's on my to-do list, but it's usually almost never, ever on my must do list, right? Getting on this video, doing this workshop, getting prepared for the workshop, making all my notes and doing that kind of stuff, that was on my must do list. Getting up this morning and doing my workout is part of self-care. That's on my must do list. Taking Maddie to the doctor today for his 18-month checkup, even though he's almost 19 months old. That's on my must-do list. Those are like the non-negotiable things. And there are non-negotiable things in our lives, and there are non-negotiable things in our business. So those things that we have to do in order to keep our business moving forward need to go on the must-do list. Everything else can go on the to-do list. So you know that they're there. And, like I like to use laundry as an example, because I absolutely hate doing laundry. So it's there, it has to get done at some point, but doesn't necessarily have to get done right now or at any specific time. So those little notebooks are really cool. A couple of other things that I find is hugely, hugely, hugely helpful, and doesn't cost any money for this. Pretty much all of us, I'm pretty confident, have a smartphone. Getting a calendar, like using one calendar, whether it's like your iCalendar, your Google Calendar, and usually they all talk to each other. So maybe you do have a calendaring app like Acuity or Calendly or Schedule Once or whatever. That can all be tied into the calendar on your phone, right? So the kind of cool thing with that is if everything's in there, and I kind of had to start doing this for myself because I was forgetting things. This one I kind of learned the hard way is I just put everything in the calendar, everything. Even like tomorrow, I have, I'm going to be doing a bar method class. And so that's on my calendar, so I don't forget to do it. I have it set to give me a reminder, so I don't forget to do it. I have it set in there, like your Google Calendar has like a thing that says drive time, like to create an allowance for drive time. But I also have all that stuff talking to my business calendar, so that way, like if I have people booking appointments, they can only book around those things, so that it's not interfering. So I'm like, shoot, I have to cancel this thing and I have to move this thing around because they weren't talking to each other. And that's happened before too. So kind of, there might be a little bit of like working out some kinks in the beginning until all the calendars start talking to each other. But once they do, it's like magic. And then you just start to calendar in the things. So for you guys, you can calendar in stuff, like if you have 5 prospects who you're going to be talking to, whether they're going to be customers or become people on your team or whatever, you can schedule their appointments in. The other thing is if you have an existing team, you can schedule your weekly like team building call or coaching or whatever and get people in on a regular schedule with that stuff. The other thing that I like to do that really just, I don't know, it makes sense in my brain and it just makes things seem like they flow so much easier is, so for any of you guys who have already had your call, your 15-minute strategy session with me, you'll notice that there's only certain blocks of time that you were able to block those calls. I only do those calls 2 days a week, and I do that on purpose. I don't offer other calls during those 2 days. Typically, like if I have to move something around and squeeze somebody in, then yes, I'll move somebody around and squeeze somebody in, especially if they're like one of my, one-on-one clients or one of my mastermind girls or whatever. I'll make an exception and move them around. But I like to kind of lump them together because then my mindset is in like strategy. And I get to lump all that together. The same with my coaching calls. I typically do most of my, and this is not typical for a lot of business coaches, but I typically do my coaching calls on Fridays and Saturdays, including the group calls. Whereas most coaches don't work on Saturday. It just works out really good for me. And it works great for my clients who still have that Monday through Friday job. So I try to lump all that together so that my energy is in one spot and it stays elevated to work at that higher level to give back more. I feel like I give more of myself and I'm better able to think more clearly and more concisely when I'm able to kind of lump all that stuff together. Plus, then it's kind of like instead of having one 15-minute call on Monday morning, one 15-minute call on Monday evening, another 30-minute call on Wednesday, and then something maybe Friday afternoon, it's all lumped together. So I'm still spending, the exact same amount of time, but I'm able to lump that into one productive period, right? So think about if you had to go to your day job, you had to drive to work, you had to go there, and then they're like, oh, it's a little bit slow, and they send you home. Instead of, spreading out 8 hours worth of work over 5 or 6 days, you're able to just crunch that into one day. You still get paid the same in the end, but it's more productive and it's more efficient use of your time, if that makes sense. So you guys, if you have any questions about any of this stuff at all, please, again, feel free to hop on, ask your questions, give your comments. I'm happy to go over any of that stuff with you, any of this stuff with you. So a calendar app is huge. If you don't have one, get one. If pen and paper and losing my thought here. If like a planner, like a notebook type of planner that you can carry around like in your purse, if that like handwritten type of scheduling works best for you, do that. Behind me here, you can see in my stacks of stuff here. I've been doing paperwork over the weekend and stuff. I have a desk calendar and I use that desk calendar for the Moms Making Money show. So I can see who's on the calendar and all of that's laid out. So I have it kind of like big picture at a glance, but I also have the time slot for the Moms Making Money show saved in this calendar. So I always know about it. And so nobody can book during that time slot. The other thing is we get so caught up in all the shoulds. Amie said I should do this. My upline said I should do that. My business coach said I should do this. And all of these different shoulds. It's in the training that I should do this. But you shouldn't try to make sure that you're doing all the things all at once, right? And especially if it doesn't feel good to you. If you're like, I hate doing this thing, you have to be able to know when it's okay to separate yourself. I want to talk to you guys, like I was doing the ultimate reset last week and the first few days were pretty good. And it's not that the food was terrible. I don't like all the food. I'll definitely give you guys that. I don't like all the food, but it wasn't terrible. It's just that I was unprepared. It wasn't my jam. Things got crazy. And you know, when I wasn't prepared in preparing my food in advance and eating in advance, and I'd go hours without eating because I would get so into the stuff I was doing for the nonprofit, so into the stuff I was planning out for these different masterminds and all the other content. And then it was like Friday, I was like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, I ended up having a bowl of cereal, and then it just kind of was downhill from there. So I fell off that wagon. But I also wasn't feeling like, I felt like, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was like, oh, I'm just feeling like this is being forced. This doesn't really feel good to me. Like I feel super deprived because I was like, couldn't have coffee because I can't have coffee without creamer because I just don't like it. And all these are excuses, right? And so it's like there's that fine line between telling yourself like you're making excuses so you're not going to get the results. And then there's also on the other side of that, there's knowing what you're in alignment with. It lowered my vibe. When I was in that kind of low vibe, I wasn't showing up even in here or with my other groups the way that I should be. I wasn't showing up at that higher vibe. I was just kind of like bleh, like overall just bleh, because I was feeling, I don't know, I was feeling deprived and neglected in my nutrition and in my eating, and I was hungry and I was grouchy and I was caffeine deprived, and you know, it just didn't work for me. And the crazy thing is like the week started out with a bang. Like I was having such a great week. I was having a great week with sales. I was having a great week with creation. I was having a great week with my one-on-one clients and getting them, you know, some really, really cool breakthrough results. And actually last week was a super cool week for me because I doubled my corporate salary from before. Well, it was $100 shy of doubling it. I could have done it if I didn't get into that kind of like energy slump. I know I could have done it, but you know, so it was kind of neat. Like I was able to make enough money and I started contributing, you know, like towards our mortgage and towards the different, you know, I paid the landscaping bill. We have some different landscaping projects going on, but for me, it like was such an amazing thing that I was like, oh my gosh, like not only have I matched my corporate salary, which is a 6-figure salary, I doubled that, you know, and instead of just having, you know, $2,000 days here and $2,000 days there and different things. I was like having a really good week, and I allowed that outside thing to cramp my style and cramp my energy and cramp my vibe, and it just kind of went. So it could have been a lot more and it could have been a lot greater. But the other thing too is recognizing what is working for you and recognizing what isn't working for you. Doing the ultimate reset was not bringing me pleasure in my life. It was not bringing me joy. It was not raising my vibration. I was not aligned with it at this point in my life. I do really like the supplements, so I'll probably keep taking the supplements, even doing the new workout program. So that's kind of one thing, but being able to really identify that kind of stuff is a big deal, you guys. So, you know, so like for a Beachbody coach, if one workout doesn't work for you, if 21-day fix doesn't work for you, maybe Country Heat will, or maybe you don't like Country Heat and you loved P90X. Like there's so many different things, just like skincare. If you're a Rodan and Fields rep or something like that, and you sign up for, you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember the name of all of the stuff, but it's like if you sign up for the orange bottle and it's not quite doing what you like and you switch to the blue one and then you love it, there's no shame in that. You know, we've all bought pants or jeans or different things that we thought were going to be great and they weren't, so we returned them and got something that worked for us a little bit better. So that's kind of the same thing, like even in our business, when we try something and it doesn't necessarily work for us. Maybe you're trying the Hey Girls, and I actually just responded to somebody a little while ago about, you know, I can't be a recipient of your Hey Girl because I have somebody in your company who I purchased from, but you know, short of telling her you should hop in on one of my communities and get some advice so you don't have to do these Hey Girls anymore. It's just kind of, you know, and then she was quickly just like gone. Like I felt kind of bad because I know what it's like to be in that situation. I know probably some of you guys know how that feels too, where you put yourself out there to send it in the first place, and then somebody like me, I'm like, oh, well, I already have a consultant in that company. So, you know, you feel kind of shot down and then instantly just, you know, have to move on. But becoming detached from the outcome. So like if you say, I'm going to reach out to these, you know, 5 people, because I definitely like the 5, it's a 5-3-2. So you talk to 5 prospects every week, and you have that on your schedule, right? That you're going to talk to 5 prospects, and you build that into your schedule, into your calendar. It's on your calendar. And the cool thing that I think, I'm going to back up just a little bit. When you're setting up your calendar, all of your must-do things should go into your calendar first. Yes, I know, like, having a power hour is ideal, and getting up early and having those miracle mornings, those are excellent things, but life happens. So, you know, so when you or your kids have appointments or different things, you have to be somewhere at a certain time, and it's like a non-negotiable, you can't change it. Put those in your calendar first, right? And then you can put into your time slots outside of that, like, okay, these, you know, Monday morning, I have an hour gap. I'm going to spend some time talking to prospects, the 5 prospects, and you put those into your calendar throughout the week. And then the 3 is to follow up with 3 people. Maybe you have follow-up Friday, or, you know, on quote unquote throwback Thursday, you go back and you throw back to 3 people who you had spoken to before. Because follow-up is huge. You know, there's no mistaking that saying, the fortune's in the follow-up. That's accurate. It's totally accurate. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. Following up is huge. Maybe if you don't follow up and you own a Subway, that might be a little bit different. But you still have to follow up with employees, potential employees. You have to follow up with, you know, your vendors and the people that are at your franchise people. All of that still has to have follow-up. Everything still has to have follow-up. But maybe not so much with potential clients, because the marketing plan is a little bit different for something like that. But follow up. So maybe you put it into your schedule, follow up Friday, and you follow up with 3 people that you've already spoken to, who've already maybe shown interest. And then you also have the 2, which is you speak to and reach out to 2 people on your team and just check in with them. Show them some love, give them some nurture, make sure that they know that you're there for them. But that's all scheduled in onto your calendar, right? So but you've scheduled that in around the other must-do things in your life, the doctor's appointments, the dropping off the car for an oil change, taking the dog to the groomer, all the things that you have that you can't really change, that are non-negotiables. Scheduling in your business around those things instead of trying to do the opposite, for me, has really, really, really been a huge, huge, huge help. Kind of like today, I knew that I had to take Maddie to the doctor. So I scheduled this video for the time that I thought was going to be sufficient time afterwards. And instead of trying to do it at like 9 in the morning, knowing that I had to be in the car by 9:30 to make it there by, you know, 10:15. So, and also knowing that I don't get out of bed extra early. If you can get out of bed extra early, perfect time to get in your workout, perfect time to do your journaling, perfect time to do your affirmations and writing your reality and setting the tone for the day. Perfect. You could even follow up with a few things, get some things done, get some things tidied up, organized, start doing your, you know, setting more appointments and different stuff like that. I am a huge believer in getting on the phone with people, speaking to people. I like to hear what people have to say. I like that they can hear what I have to say so that they know. Well, one, it's kind of annoying to have to read like this huge, long thing of like words, right? It's annoying to have to type it, and it's annoying to have to read it. I know you guys have all been there on probably both sides of that, but definitely on the receiving end where it's like, whoo, like 5 million words, and you're like, I can barely even skim over this. So it's also quicker when you get somebody on the phone or a Zoom call or even videos like this, because you can just get the words out and they just start going and going and going. So getting people on the phone, following up with your prospects on the phone or a Zoom call or something like that, getting people who you're, you know, following up with from your team. There's a reason why, you know, pretty much every MLM encourages their team leaders to have team calls, because there's just that connection. You can pick up on people's energy. You can pick up on people's confidence, you know, by their body language, by the tone of their voice, by the pitch in their voice, all of those things. And you don't even realize that you're doing it. And, you know, you guys have all heard that building a business, especially like an MLM business or business in an online space, it is all about the energy. It is all about, you know, the connection and building the relationships. It's really hard to build a relationship when all you're doing is sending a sentence back and forth here and there. It's not it's not truly authentic. It's not truly genuine. And yes, we can have excellent relationships that do develop over private messenger and following each other. I always say Facebook is the best way to stay in touch without actually staying in touch, but that's about the extent of it. So if you're not actually participating in communication with these other people, that's the end of, there's not a lot beyond that. And I feel like that nurturing of, your prospects, the nurturing of your downlines, the nurturing of the people who have already signed up with you or who want to sign up with you, or maybe are giving you a referral, that's all so, so important. So the next thing that I want to talk about, and this is really, really tough love, is we've all said it. I've said it myself, but you guys probably hear it from your prospects for customers, your prospects for coaches, and your downlines, and from your existing downlines. I don't have time. We all seem to have that busy thing going on. I'm busy. You guys are all busy. But being busy is not a badge of honor. And I know that we think it is sometimes, and we feel like it is, especially because there was that study and that saying about, I think I sent an email about it to you guys not too long ago, that boys are raised to be brave and girls are raised to be perfect. So when we say we're busy, society likes to make it seem like a badge of honor. But being productive is so much more valuable to growing our business and to our self-worth than just being busy, because we could be busy folding laundry, and that's not overly productive in my opinion. But being productive and being efficient and working smart, and it's just like that saying, work smart, not hard. So when you say I don't have time for that, really think about, do you not have time for that, or are you not making time for that? Are you not making it a priority? So when you start to say, and you'll have to catch yourself quite a few times in this process, you'll have to say, instead of I don't have time to XYZ, I don't have time to do the laundry, I don't have time to do my workout, I don't have time to run my business, I don't have time to follow up with the people who are my prospects, who are in my team, or in my downline. I don't have time to do these reach outs and do those follow-ups, right? Try replacing that with, it's not a priority to me to do the workout. It's not a priority to me to follow up with these 3 people who I spoke with last week. It's not a priority to me to check in with 2 of the people on my team and see how they're doing and offer them support. Seems a lot different, doesn't it? It's like drastic night and day when you say, I don't have time for that, versus it's not a priority to me. Because the truth is, and you guys know this, with your own clients and stuff, that if you really want to do it, you'll find the time, you'll make the time. People get up at 5 in the morning so they can get in a 30-minute workout before they go to work when it's a priority to them. They sleep in, if they're like me, and getting up that early isn't a priority to them. Or they have the flexibility that they can work out a little bit later. But that's just it is. It's like, when you stop to think about it, like for me, I'll be straight up. Folding the laundry is not a priority for me. However, there are so many things, like showing up on this video is a priority for me. Showing up and creating the programs and the slides and the workshops and the workbooks and all of the things that are going into all of my courses, whether they're individual courses or part of my mastermind or part of the mini mastermind, that's a priority for me. So I make the time for it. I'll either do it at night. Well, I started off doing it at night after everybody had gone to bed because it was my only quiet time. And then I started getting help with babysitter. And like right now, there's a babysitter here who's looking after the kiddos. So I have this time dedicated to you guys to give you guys a quality video because it's a priority to me. There are times when, things out of your control happen. The babysitter cancels, she calls in sick, something happens out of her control, and you just go with it. You make the best of it. But you have to start thinking about it in that way. Like, and I'm not saying that a good binge on Netflix or something isn't something that's going to like recharge your batteries, because that's super important too. And we'll talk to that when we get to the self-care aspect of things. because this is kind of actually like a long list of things that I've started to implement. And it took me really taking some hard lumps and really, really, having some stress and anxiety about moving forward in my business, because it was really hard. And growing a business is hard, you guys. I'm not going to lie about that. It's hard. It is hard work. Even if you're working smart, it's still hard work. It really is blood, sweat, and tears. And a lot of people aren't willing to work that hard. So that's why sometimes you see people who come and go, who are like, oh yeah, I see this really nice package delivered to me of, well, Amie could do it, or Stacy can do it, or Jane could do it, so I can do it, which all that's true. But when they actually get into the nitty gritty and they're like, oh wow, this actually does take an hour or 2 hours a day. And this actually is something that requires a little bit more attention and focus and organization. So some people, it's not a priority to them. They're just able or willing to go back to the way things were, because taking those extra steps, taking that extra initiative, joining that course, going to, to those events, that's not important to them. It's not a priority to them. And we can't make it and force it to be a priority to them. Like you guys here, watching this workshop, participating here, growing your business and improving your time management and getting rid of some of these overwhelming aspects of your business, that's a priority to you. So you're here, you're watching this. Even if you're catching the replay and you've made it this far into the video, you're taking the time because your business is a priority to you. So know that when you kind of change your mindset on that a little bit, and going from, and you can use this training with your teams, with your downlines, and with your clients too, if you want to. Just have them do that exercise of, from I don't have time for that to it's not a priority to me, and see how it just seems so different when you say the words out loud, when you actually put it into perspective that way, when you're like, oh, well, it is important to me, but I didn't actually think of it that way. So a lot of times you hear a lot of people who talk about, like, for the beginning of my business, which the beginning couple years of your business is going to be when you work the hardest. It's going to be when you hustle the most. And I'm not saying that you're always having to hustle, but I look at it like this. I'm creating, in my highest level mastermind, the Recipe for Success, I'm creating 12 robust modules. Right now, we're about halfway through that. I know that once and it's a priority to me. Once I get done creating those modules, then it's just maintaining those modules. If something new comes up, I'll create something else and I'll upload it. I'll add it for them. If something changes, I'll upload a tutorial and I'll add it for them. But once it's done, it's done. And that's kind of a lot of the ways that, that will be the same for your business. Like, once you come up with the strategy for onboarding your downline, once you create those videos, once you do those things, it's done. Once you start an email automation and you get people into your funnel, it's done. All you have to do then is update and upload new things that are, because things evolve, things change. So as your story evolves, you can, start to implement new things, different things. Maybe you're updating the price. Maybe you're updating, some tips or tricks that you've learned along the way, and you're putting that into your automation. You're putting that into your funnel. You're putting that into your training, putting it into a challenge group or a webinar or whatever. But once you get through some of that initial setup, some of that initial creation, it's already done. So one of the things that I really definitely recommend, if you don't already, is have some sort of automation process. Use the units in your Facebook groups. If you're using, videos that you've already created, you only have to create it once. Even if you're doing a video via Zoom or via Facebook Live, save it and put it into the units. Excuse me for just a second. I need some water. Save that. You hear a lot of people talking about repurposing. Start a Google Drive. Put a bunch of different folders in there. Keep the templates for the emails that you send out for your nurture sequences. That's what I do. And I've actually shared those sequences into the automation portion of the Recipe for Success. I've given away like my nurture sequence, so you just, take it and create your own, but you can have something for inspiration. So you're like thinking like, what's a nurture sequence? What even goes into that? that's why I gave them that, so that they didn't even have to think about it. So they could create their own. And then as time goes, they can update it, change it, expand on it, whatever. But once it's created, it's already done, you know, and it's like one thing that you don't have to really think about anymore. So that's the same thing. If you're doing like a sneak peek into the business opportunity, maybe you record 5 days worth of videos, you know, one video for each day, and you set those up in the units in a group. And then ever so often, however often you run that sneak peek into the, you know, the business opportunity, you add them in there, and they have to go through those units. And you just keep, you know, then all you have to do is check in on them, on their comments, answer their questions, and then you come back and follow up with them, because it's already in your calendar to follow up with Amie, who's going through the sneak peek into the opportunity. So there's all those kinds of things that we can do that really make life a lot easier. And I'll tell you what, having some automation in place is huge, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to do something, so you don't have to have Entreport or Infusionsoft. You can do something, you don't even have to have ClickFunnels. You can get something like Lead Pages for next to nothing. And you know what, I'm going to make a note. I want to share something with you guys with some resources. So I will share that soon. It's my little black book. It's like a clickable PDF where it just launches you straight to all of my favorite places, including like stock images and different stuff. Jane says, that's what I need to work on, is automating. Well, Jane, we'll work on that in the mastermind for sure. I think I put the little black book in there already. If not, then I will today. So now I've kind of lost my thought. But yeah, automating, repurposing content, all of that stuff is part of the working smart. Instead of recreating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, that's going to burn you out. Which brings me to self-care. Part of my self-care includes getting help. I have one family member who lives in my town, and she's a single mom of 2 kids who works a full-time job that includes overtime, right? So she's been working 6 days a week. She's not somebody who I can just call and be like, hey, sister, you want to just come watch my kids so I can work for a couple hours? I don't have that luxury. My mom and dad, and then my husband's parents live thousands of miles away. My husband's parents live in another country. So we don't have that ability. And I feel like that's really common nowadays. Everybody's families are so spread out of where they live and what they do and all of that. That a lot of times we kind of feel like we're on our own as far as, you know, juggling, you know, our circus is what I like to call it. You know, we've got our little monkeys that are our kids, and then we've got all the other stuff, all the peanuts on the floor and different things that we've got to juggle. Plus then we throw a business into the mix. And that's, like I said, that's where all the overwhelm comes in, because it's just so much stuff. So one thing that I committed to do for myself is I got someone who came to the house 4 hours a week. Was what I started with. 4 hours a week. On Thursdays, it was from, about 8:30 in the morning, because the Mom's Making Money show is at 9, until about noon-ish, because after the show, I was doing my writing lessons. And I committed to doing the writing lessons because I was like really experiencing major burnout. Like I'd become a total hermit. I wasn't going anywhere, wasn't doing anything except for like walking around the zoo or the wild animal park or SeaWorld with the boys. I wasn't having, any time for myself. And I didn't have any time for myself for a good year. And it was really, really not productive. It wasn't productive for my business. It wasn't productive for my anxiety. It wasn't productive for my family. It just wasn't productive. I was like burnt out on everything, right? I was burnt out on chores. I was burnt out on cooking dinner. And I like to cook. But I just went through this whole phase of complete burnout because I wasn't taking care of myself. It's not uncommon for business owners, even in health and fitness, even nutritionists, even in wellness, to gain, what we call like the freshman 15, because they're working so hard on their business that they're putting themselves and their health and their pleasure on the back burner. One thing that I learned from talking with different intuitive eating coaches is when your pleasure tank is empty, it's really hard to lose weight. And it's really hard to not emotional eat and boredom eat and all the different things. But when your pleasure tank is full, you're out doing fun things. Think about the last time you were out doing something just so fun. Like maybe you were out snorkeling and chasing down sea turtles or whatever it is that you really like to do. The last thing on your mind was like, oh, I wonder what's in the fridge at the hotel, or ooh, I should do this, or I should do that, or, you know, as far as like eating and different things. So the more active you are, the more time you're spending filling your pleasure tank, then the less time you're spending eating, which was kind of, I mean, I know that's a little bit off topic, but that flows through into your business too. If you are coming into your business and you have a completely empty pleasure tank, it's going to show. And it's going to be so much harder to grow your business and to keep your energy high, your vibe high, and all of that stuff when your tank is on empty. But when you start taking care of yourself, you start finding fun things that you like to do, whether it's date night, you find a new workout. Like for me, I wasn't doing the workouts because I didn't want to. I didn't want to go out in the garage and do the workouts because it wasn't something I could even do by myself. I always had the kiddos and all that stuff. So I went and joined a bar method studio, and I like it. It's fun. It reminds me of back in high school when I was on the dance team. Like, it's just something that I actually enjoy doing. I started getting my hair cut again. Like, I went, I don't know, I went like a year without getting my hair cut for like 3 years in a row almost, or however long it was. And then I was like, okay, no, I'm going to commit to doing it because it makes me feel better and it needs to be done. And, you know, different things like that, getting a pedicure, even though it's not on the consistent basis that I once had, getting one every 2 months instead of once a month is better than getting one once a year or never. So different things like that. And it doesn't have to be something that costs money. It doesn't have to be something materialistic. It's whatever makes you happy. If you enjoy taking your dog on long walks through a beautiful park, but you haven't done it in a while because you've been so busy focusing on your business, I want you to stop. I know this is probably not what your upline wants to hear, or, you know, or whatever, but you need to stop and take your dog for that walk, because you're going to have so many ideas come through your head. That's going to, you know, like you always have all that time in the shower when you think of different things, or when you're driving or whatever. So much inspiration is going to come to you when you're out enjoying that beautiful park, enjoying your dog, or, you know, your kids, or whatever it is that you're doing. And date nights, oh gosh, date nights are so important. Sorry, I'm very thirsty today. Date nights are so important, you know, spending that time, you know, staying connected and communicating with your spouse. One of the next things that I have here is, you know, setting time to communicate with your spouse, and talking to them about your goals and sharing with them why having this business is so important to you. And I've even done this myself. Like, you know, it was a date night right before I, you know, decided to take on this community, because I was nervous. I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a lot more time. It's going to be a lot more work than what I've already, you know, I just launched the Recipe for Success. It was like the beginning of that program. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? So, you know, my husband and I actually talked about it. And before, we never really had talked about my business, because he was like, just do your thing, babe. Like, I support whatever you want to do, blah, blah, blah. But I actually needed to get his feedback. Like, for me, I wanted to have that conversation and get his feedback and see what he thought, because, you know, I had some guilt coming into it. Like, okay, like, I'm going to be needing a little bit of extra help with a babysitter, at least for this 12-week period, you know, to get me through the rest of the summer and to get me through recording these modules, you know, because it's not just like 12 modules, it's like 12 modules, and each module has numerous videos and workbooks and different things in it. So I was like, I need somebody who can kind of wrangle the kids while I do that. And so I had to decide to up my babysitting a little bit, but I felt guilty about that. I was like, you know, I quit my corporate job so I could be a stay-at-home, you know, work-at-home mom. And so I had that guilt, and he, you know, it felt really good for me that he was able to kind of ease my mind and say, no, that's what we need to do to get you to that place, you know. And then it kind of came back full circle. Like, yes, if I can make for the next few weeks, if I can make kind of that sacrifice in time, so that way when this is done and this initial hard work of recording these modules is complete, then I do have more time to spend with them, which is the whole goal. I have more time freedom. Everything will be much smoother and will go much smoother. But having that communication while we were at date night, and we were having a nice time together, and getting that reassurance was huge to me. Like, even though like the biz besties that I talk to every single day, they were like, yeah, you can't feel guilty about needing a little bit of help. You have to have, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. But I still felt guilty about it. And I'm sure some of you guys can relate that, you feel guilty about, well, there's mom guilt on both sides of it, right? Like, there's mom guilt when you go to work and you have to leave your kids at daycare or with a nanny or whatever. But then there's mom guilt on the other side of, I'm not contributing and I want to do more and I'm meant to do more, I'm meant to be more. So you have to like collide those things together and squish that mom guilt and just do what you have to do and not feel guilty about it, because the time that you're putting in right now is going to pay off for the extra time that you guys are going to have together in the really near future, right? And that's a big deal, because it does take more. And you can look at, the top leader of any MLM, the top, independent coach leader who already has a ton of content created, and you're going to see that they have a lot more time freedom than you feel like you have right now. But it's kind of, you hear that story, whether it's like health and fitness, a business, whatever, a weight loss journey. Don't look at somebody else's, end or middle and compare it to your beginning, because the beginning is always harder. The beginning is more work. And if somebody tells you different, then either they've got some sort of wacky trick up their sleeve that I've never heard of, or they're lying to you. So it is more work going in. When you're creating original content, when you're recording those initial videos, when you're creating those initial trainings, you think about somebody like Lindsay Matway or Melanie Mitro from Beachbody, right? They have all of their stuff for their onboarding of their coaches and their sneak peeks. It's recorded. They may still do like a live Zoom call here and there. I don't know. But I mean, I do know that a lot of Beachbody coaches, a lot of like MLM reps, Rodan and Fields and all of that stuff, they have that onboarding stuff pre-recorded. So yes, it took them time to record it up front, but it doesn't take them any time to add people to a group or put it into an automation and put people into that funnel and automate them through those trainings once it's already done. That's kind of where I'm going with this. Is in the beginning, it takes time to make those videos. It takes time to come up with that content for training. It takes time. But once it's done, and you can repurpose it and then just update it later. And then you can spend that extra time working on yourself and that self-care, communicating with your spouse, and speaking to people who you're trying to get as part of your team, who are potentially interested in working with you as a customer or a client, taking care of your downline if that's applicable to you. Or, maybe you have a team as far as like virtual assistants, and, like for me, I have a girl working on, getting the podcast up and running this week, converting the Moms Making Money show. So whatever your team looks like, that's where you get to start focusing your energy. But one thing to keep in mind is, if you think of a CEO, a successful CEO, man or woman, right? And I know women probably struggle with this a little bit more. There's not a CEO of a major successful corporation out there who doesn't delegate, right? So we have to know when it's okay to delegate things, when it's okay to delegate your chores, and you start to get somebody who helps you with your laundry. That's what I've done. You get somebody who comes, maybe you get a housekeeper who comes and scrubs the toilets and the showers and all that kind of deep cleaning a couple times a month. Maybe you, some people don't like to cook, so maybe they get someone to help them with like meal prep or food prep or whatever, right? Maybe you have someone who comes a few hours a week, 5 hours a week, an hour a day, whatever it is, and helps you watch the kids. So you just have an hour of uninterrupted time. Why don't you guys post in the comments if you're on live, or even if you're catching the replay later, what are some of the things that you feel like, one, that you don't necessarily enjoy doing, that are not pleasurable for you, two, that is not a business like money-making activity that you wish that you could kind of get off your plate right now? If you could delegate one or two things, what would it be right now? Pop those into the comments, and I'm going to tell you what I did. So I've had a housekeeper for a while. I took about a year off of having a housekeeper, and it sucked. But I do own two businesses. And so one of my other business, not this business, but my construction company business, I pay my housekeeper out of that business, and or through my earnings from that business. And it's kind of like a non-negotiable for me, because the time that I spend working on the finances and working on bids and estimates and proposals and going to business meetings and all that stuff is time that I'm earning money, right? It's time spent propelling the business forward. So if I can pay somebody X amount of dollars, to come and take care of like the things that I don't want to do anyways, like the laundry and scrubbing toilets and scrubbing showers, it's more productive for me to do money-making activities, whether it's in this business or my other business, and not focus the time on chores. So that's always just kind of been something that I've done. And I know it's not always something that's easily obtainable when you're first starting out and you don't have any income coming in, but maybe you quickly set a goal to have that as soon as you start getting a certain amount of money coming in. Maybe you start with somebody and you're just going to pay them $50, however much they can get done for $50. Maybe it's $100. I actually had a change in my housekeeper because I wasn't overly happy with the way that my last housekeeper was performing. And the new housekeeper I had, she was like, oh, I'll do the laundry too while I'm here. And she charges the exact same amount of money. So it didn't cost me any more to get what I was initially kind of manifesting, was somebody who could just come once a week and take care of all the things that I needed. So that's kind of, if you need help, it's okay to ask for help. I know as women, a lot of times we're control freaks and we suck at delegating. I do it as well. I have a hard time delegating to like my VA and different types of, delegating out that stuff. But it's such a huge relief when you do. It's such a huge relief when you see like, oh, it's getting taken care of. Okay, Jane says, I do enjoy inviting people. The things I would like to delegate someone to do are my graphics, as well as learning all of these programs isn't the easiest for me, along with all the other programs I'm learning. Yeah, so you could get somebody who, like a virtual assistant who's really, really good at Canva, or find somebody on Fiverr or whatever and delegate that out. And it might cost you maybe you want one graphic a day. So I know like Nikki Schroeder, she's an Instagram gal, right? She has a program, it's $50 a week. And that includes a post on Instagram. She creates the graphic. She creates the hashtags. She creates the stuff. She'll run it by you, of course, to make sure it's, in your vibe and whatever, and goes through all your branding. She then turns that into an Instagram post ready to go. But you guys all know that once you have an Instagram post, you can also share it to your Facebook page, right? So for $50 a week, say, you could get all of that posting already done, created, hashtagged, and shared. So that may be out of your reach right now today, but maybe you put that on your vision board. You write down her name. It's Nikki with a Y, N-Y-C-K-I, and you look her up when you're ready. And when you've got an extra $50, and she has smaller packages too. I think her smallest package is like $10 a week. You don't get it every single day, but she does that kind of stuff. So you think about something like that you're struggling with, that you wish you had, somebody else to do, and it would just take that burden off. But you have to also, say, what's that worth to me? If I could spend an hour scrubbing toilets, folding laundry versus an hour working, what's that worth to me? I read a book once that said, if you wanted to work 20 hours a week and earn $1 million a year, your hourly rate was something like $962 an hour. Let me tell you, hold on, I'll tell you. 1 million divided by 52 divided by 20. Yeah, $962 an hour. So you think about if you had to hire a babysitter, say for $15 an hour, obviously that $1 million is like your big lofty goal, but you know that now your time for working 20 hours a week ultimately is going to be worth $962 an hour, because you're going to be $1 million earner and there's nothing stopping you from that, right? So if you think about, okay, if I have to spare $15 an hour for a babysitter, and I'm still working towards getting to that $1 million, and my hourly worth is $962, is it worth it to you to spend that hour of your time, that hour that's worth $962? Or is it worth it to you to have somebody else come in and take care of that for you so you can do those money-making activities? So that's where I kind of had to like be like, all right, I'm going to do the money-making activities and somebody else is going to do the shower scrubbing. And it took me a while to like wrap my brain around that. I told my husband one day, I'm like the worst housewife ever. I am not a good housewife. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like the house is always clean. Like, cause I tidied up throughout the week and whatever. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I just was not wanting to cook dinner. I was not wanting to scrub the showers. I was not wanting to do the laundry. And I was just really wanting to work on my business and hang out with the kids and hang out with him. I didn't want to do the chores. And I still don't really want to do the chores. I mean, I do them. We all do them. It doesn't mean we like them. It doesn't mean that it's the most productive use of our time per se, especially if we're also growing a business. So just kind of some food for thought. All right. So this is Angela says, not that I don't enjoy it, but I need a sitter for 2 to 4 hours a week to care for my son. Oh, hold on. There's a second part of the comment. So I can work and focus a bit more on my business. Yeah, because sometimes we need that uninterrupted amount of time where it's just quiet and we can focus. It's like scientifically proven, like if you get interrupted a bunch of times, it takes you way longer. I think it's like 3 or 4 times as long to complete one task than if you just sat down and did it uninterrupted, because your thoughts like kind of like bounce all around and it's hard to kind of gather those back in and get back to that same place of like true focus that you were on at the moment that you were interrupted. So yeah, so for me, I started with 4 hours a week, and at 4 hours a week, I was earning $2,000 a day. I was, within 1, 2, 3, on the third month, I had like, the second month I had like a $2,000 or $3,000 month from working this business. And then the third, or I think it was the third month, it was like a $4,000 month. And now that's becoming like a weekly amount for me, because I have actually increased my babysitting just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And it helped that my older son was going to preschool 3 days a week. So having that time, because it is hard you can't schedule in. I know this isn't true because some people can. Their kids take a nap at the exact same time every single day. My kids don't. So I couldn't schedule in my calendar a time to talk to Angela or time to talk to Jane that I knew my kid was going to be taking a nap, because sometimes he would fall asleep maybe consistently at 11 o'clock in the morning, but some days he would only sleep for 20 minutes. Some days he would sleep for 2 hours. So for me, I couldn't plan my business growth around nap time. I couldn't plan my power hour at 5 in the morning because I was setting myself up for failure doing that, because it just wasn't working for me. It didn't work for me. One thing that I learned from my friend Nicole Santer, one thing that I've learned from my own experience, is having an open communication line with my husband was hugely helpful. I read a book once that said she and her husband, she was a multi-level marketing 7-figure earner, and her husband have a weekly like sit down on Sunday evenings to kind of plan out their week a little bit. And she calls it their traffic meeting, I think is what she called it. And she'll tell him, like, this is what I need you to help me with this week. I need you to take Susie to soccer, and I need you to take Sally to dance, and these are the days, and then I'll pick her up, or whatever their game plan is, right? But a lot of times too, like, I know it's not uncommon in, a lot of different businesses, multi-level marketing and whatever. I know it's not uncommon for people to say that they have an unsupportive spouse or partner or whatever. So sitting them down and telling them, like, look, this is so important to me, and telling them why it's so important to you. I feel like, based on, being a spouse myself and speaking to so many women, they're afraid to tell their partner that they're afraid that the message that they're, of saying to their partner, like, I'm meant for more is going to come across as saying I'm unfulfilled in being a mother and being a wife and being, your role as being a stay-at-home mom, but that's not necessarily the case. So you need to pitch it to them in the same way that you would talk to your customer and or your potential downline or whatever, and talk to him in the same way that says like, hey, I really loved when we were able to take that vacation to Hawaii, and I want to be able to help save for a vacation fund so it's not coming out of our regular budget, because I would like us to be able to go to Hawaii or somewhere else like that twice a year instead of just once a year, because you get 2 weeks of paid vacation, but we're only ever able to go one place because we only ever can afford to go for a week. So I would like to work and start this business to help us be able to have a better vacation fund so that we can do more vacationing together as a family. And not every guy wants to be retired from their day job. They don't all want to be saved from, from their career or the job that they love, right? But so you don't necessarily, you can talk to them about that. Like, when my business becomes successful, would you like to retire from your job, or what would your ideal situation look like? And if he's like, no, I'm totally going to keep working, then that's fine. That's totally fine. He may change his mind later, of course, too. But the other thing, too, is you might even say like, hey, I earned enough money this week that I want to contribute. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to cover the groceries, or I went ahead and paid for, Sally's soccer, whichever one of them had soccer, and Susie's dance, and vice versa. And I also had enough left over that I was able to buy both of their uniforms again. And it didn't come out of our daily budget. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that over into savings or whatever. Like, so you have to like talk to him about like, how will that benefit him? Because in turn, you're asking him for a little bit more support. Like, hey, babe, like 3 nights a week, I need to do these things. Like, I need to do my prospecting. I need to do, speaking. And I say prospecting, I'm not talking about, hey, girls. I'm talking about like when you have appointments set up to speak to people about, the business opportunity or your services or whatever. Or maybe it's, your team meeting and you're doing a training, or you're following up with people who are on your team and just checking in with them to make sure they're okay. Or you're following up with people who you'd spoken with the week before and you told them you'd give them a buzz back because they weren't quite sure if they were ready to hop in, or maybe they just needed to finish up their last tube of face lotion, cream, whatever, before they bought your new skincare product, whatever it is, right? And it's a lot easier for your husband to get on board when, one, he knows what your actual vision is, and two, how it's going to positively affect him and the whole like family, like overall. So being able to tell him like, these are my goals and this is what I'm going for, and this is how it can positively impact our family, that's going to help, because he can help, even he'll be more willing to help even like offset some of that time, even if it's just for an hour or half an hour, or like maybe you could put the kids to bed one night a week and they would actually really love that. And the kids would definitely love that. So those are a few different things. And that can help give you that extra time too. All right, let's see. I think we covered most of this stuff. So, turning off your notifications just at like 2 to 4 times a day that you're going to check in. If you feel like you need to do it 4 times a day, that's fine. But give yourself just a short window, 30 minutes or whatever. Max, even 10 minutes max is plenty to clear out all your messages, make a few responses, and go on. That doesn't and be mindful too how, like, if you catch yourself, like if you're sitting down to watch a movie or something, catch yourself if you find that you're like scrolling through Facebook and how much time you're actually wasting on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And then remember too, like if you do get help with 2 to 4 hours a week of childcare, don't feel ashamed of that. There's totally no shame in that. Having a few hours, I guess, whether it's a few hours a day or a few hours a week, to actually sit and focus, have the quiet time, have some time like kind of by yourself. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. I did feel guilty about it for a while. I felt kind of guilty. But now looking at it, like now I'm able to financially contribute to my family. I'm able to, bring in, I've doubled, my weekly income recently from when I had a full-time job, a full-time 6-figure career. And that feels really good for me. And so by me feeling really good, me feeling really accomplished, my pleasure tank then being full, I show up as a better mom. I show up as a better wife. I'm more eager to do the things that I used to love to do, like cooking, not laundry, never laundry. But we, like it's easier to just unplug for a whole day on a Sunday and go swimming or go to the movies or just sit and play and read books and build Legos and make slime and, the stuff. It doesn't have to cost any money, but it's your time, and you can do it guilt-free and uninterrupted, and you can turn all the notifications off on your phone and not even think about it. But when you're juggling everything else and you have no time to sit and focus, you do feel like you have to always be on the social media, on your email, checking to make sure, like, okay, Jane, I'm going to pick on Jane. She said she was going to message me back at, on this day, and she hasn't done it yet. And so you keep refreshing to see if Jane's message is there. But instead, it's just kind of like, okay, I worked really hard this week. I had a great week. I'm going to unplug. If Jane messages me on Sunday, even though she said she would message me on Saturday or whatever, that's fine. I'll just get back to her on Monday. No big deal, right? And as much as it seems sometimes like a big deal that, like, oh, if I don't get right back to them, they're gonna find another person to buy their stuff from. Chances are they won't. The chance is that they came to you because there was something about you, something about a conversation you had, something about the results that you showed, or your own personal story or whatever, your energy that attracted them to you, and they're not going to want to shop around per se. If they do decide to shop around because they couldn't wait for you to have one day off a week, which I highly recommend having that one day off, highly recommend it, then they weren't your ideal client anyways. All right, we've got, speaking of Jane, pick away. It has taken me a while to not continue to keep checking. Yeah, it's hard. It's even hard for me. Like, it takes a while to kind of get in that groove of just being like, no, I'm going to check my emails at 11 o'clock. I'm not checking my emails while I'm still laying in bed in the morning, because it really does. If somebody sends you an email, or, maybe it's like an email that gets you kind of like down in the dumps or something, like maybe for like you guys, like if you have someone who sends you an email, or the company sends you an email saying like, Amie decided that she's going to quit, she's no longer going to be a part of your team, that could really negatively affect your day. But if you get up, you don't check your email, you don't ever see that right away, right? You get up, you go eat your breakfast, drink your coffee, do your workout, do your meditating, express your gratitude, all those things. You come back at it a little bit better, like mindset and focused already, and you've already done all these great things. You've already made your bed and you're already feeling good. It's going to be a little less impactful, and it's going to affect your day a little bit less severely by seeing it after you've already had a day of accomplishing good things, right? So, and so instead of allowing that to set the tone for your day, you've already set the tone for your day by doing the things that you need to do, the things that are a priority to you. And then you don't have to worry about getting some, because people do come and go. People quit. People buy products. They don't ever use them. How many of you guys have bought a skincare product or a hair product that's still sitting there, who knows how long later, that you've not used? How many of you guys have a gym membership that you don't use? How many of you guys have different types of workout equipment that you don't use? It's the same thing. So even if, even for me, like if you buy a program from me and you don't use it, I may never know that you didn't use it. I hope that you use it because I think that it's a great product if I'm putting it out there into the world for sale. But it's going to be the same for a lot of you guys as well, that if you sell somebody a challenge pack, or you sell somebody a skincare pack or whatever, 90% of them are probably going to use it, but there's a percentage who won't. But you can't allow those things to consume your mind. It's this or something better. I know you guys have probably heard that elsewhere before, but it's so true. This or something better. And I want to make sure that I have everything here. Do you guys have any questions about anything? My biggest tips for right away are making sure you're taking care of yourself, doing something fun, pleasurable. Try to do it, it like for 30 minutes a day. Maybe that's your workout. Maybe it's going for a walk in the park with your dog, like I said. Maybe it's, cooking something. Maybe it's just unplugged time with your kids. Maybe it's date night. I'm not saying you have to go on date night every day, but getting in regular date nights, like once a week, twice a month, whatever, doing those things makes a huge, huge difference. So calendar. Find yourself a calendar app or a planner and use it. Schedule in your business around the non-negotiable things in your business, in your life, because it is a little bit easier to schedule like the phone calls with your prospects and schedule the phone calls for your training and your follow-ups and different stuff. It is so much easier to schedule those around your kids' doctor's appointments and soccer games than it is to reschedule your soccer games and doctor's appointments. So that's a huge, huge thing. Making a to-do list and a must-do list, huge, huge. And knowing the difference between the two things. And then shutting off your notifications so that you're not a slave to Facebook, and learning how to delegate. And then also, if you are feeling like you don't have time or someone tells you don't have time, remember to replace that with, instead of I don't have time to work out, I don't have time to eat healthy, I don't have time to do these things, replace that with, it's not a priority to me to work out. It's not a priority to me to do the follow-up calls. It's not a priority to me to eat healthy. Another time-saving tip that I have that's kind of hit or miss because not every area has it is get your groceries delivered. I know that sounds really crazy, but you also save money. So it's $5 or $10 usually for the delivery fee. At least it is in my town. But I end up saving that because I don't get a bunch of unnecessary crap in my cart. And you can save your grocery list at most places. And so like the things that you buy over and over again, like bread, milk, eggs, that type of stuff, it will remember that list. And so you can just click reorder and then go in and change it or re-add the different things that you need. And then they'll deliver it to your front door. So that might be a huge time saver because, again, after the initial setup, it's done, the template's there, and you can reuse it over and over again. Do you guys have any questions before we pop off here? And of course, too, as I start to come up with other things that I find are saving me time, because think about, in a few years when everything's kind of that well-oiled machine there, and everything's already pre-recorded, everything's already automated. You have an amazing team, an amazing virtual assistant. Maybe you even have a real life assistant, like who comes to your house or to your office or whatever. Things are going to be so much easier. But in the beginning, I don't care what kind of business you're starting. I don't care what type of network marketing business, independent business, whatever. It is a lot more work up front, getting all of these things, because some of it's trial and error too, right? But getting these things established feels like a lot more work up front, and it is. So when there's days where you feel like you are starting to become overwhelmed, just kind of think back and think, am I doing these things? Am I calendaring? Am I making a to-do list? Am I making a must-do list? Am I delegating where I can? Am I having open lines of communication with my partner? Where is my pleasure tank? Is it even are you even thinking about your pleasure tank? Is it full? Has it fallen off the truck? Like, where is it? Is it, think about that. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to start using the calendar app and all of my troubles are going to be solved for the rest of my life, for the rest of time. Things come up. Growing a business is still work, no matter what level you're at, but it doesn't have to always be a struggle. Juggling things is one thing, but it doesn't always have to be a struggle. Thank you, Jane. Great info. Thanks, she says. You're very welcome. Anything else from anybody else before we pop off here? I know I've taken some of your time up here. That's basically all I have for just, a handful of tips to get you guys started. Obviously, we could dive into automation and get into all the different ways that automation can save you a tremendous amount of time. But I think that makes sense to save that for another day. So if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll hop off here and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining me today.